Don't accept a crown while you're still at war. Your battle starts with your first accomplishment. Earn your stripes like a pilot. Sunrise Thoughts, brought to you by 348 Select. On today's episode of Morning Brew, a Winning Routine, we are joined by Sizwe Mbiza, here to give us his insights on how to brew the perfect working environment for success. Sizwe Mbiza is well known for being, a culture shaper, a culture mover, a culture curator. This episode is about embodying your manifestations. My guest has gone from liking to making and co-signing, and what is and will be the future of South African creative scene, from being behind the lens to being behind the brands. Sizwe is a masterclass on how to make it without being the face of it. Recording this episode, the key takeaway was assert your brilliance without overbearing with your ego. Thank you, Sizwe, for joining us on today's Morning Brew, hosted by myself, Lwazi Madonsela.
My first interaction with you, and with you, I mean like in terms of your art, your creative skills, your abilities and things I know, I think it was the Visco era, the high contrast.
Yeah.
When everyone, there was an era on Instagram, I think we were all the photographers, we were all trying to get that look because you always got the color palettes. And we went to the forest, we were with the homies, nah, fuck it, this nigga's using Bambata. We're going to get this white girl we're in school with. We're going to take her and do high contrast. We're going to get the pink on her and then the green. And like, damn, I'm not getting it, bro. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting. I'm like, why am I not hitting? We have all the settings.
That's insane.
So I'm trying to figure
That's insane.
At which moment did you say, yo, photography is my thing? In fact, it's not even about photography, like telling a story. When did you hit you that's what you're trying to
do? I think I figured it out in high school. I think with me, what drove me to get into visual storytelling, fashion design, and all those things is because I studied design in high school, right? So I had a subject from grade 10 until matric, and then I obviously went to a fashion school, Lysoff. And that's where I basically picked up the camera in the professional sense, because I've always had a camera. It was like a small digital camera that you play around with. But once I got to varsity, then I learned about lighting, about all these other things, and how to bring a story together, how to image make. So that's where it all started. And also, the friends that I kept around me at that time, those are the guys that really pushed me. I think we also pushed each other to do better. Like you mentioned, Bambata Jones. There's also Label. Like all the other people that we were basically. Yeah. So we would basically give ourselves assignments every week. What we do is that after school, on maybe let's say a Thursday or something, we would have photo walks, right? So we would decide on a location, maybe a look, and then shoot that for the week. And then it would belong to this person. Then the next week we'd do that, it would belong to that person. So we all started blogs, got into Tumblr, and that's how we got into it. And we're using phones predominantly, but we're also using like a lot of our cameras as well. So yeah, that's where it all started for me, bro. That it was a culmination of all these things that inspired me, and yeah, it just happened like that.
So with all your work, I'm dating it back to because I got snippets of your work. Because I'm that kid, when I find you on Instagram, I'll search you on Google. That's like my first thing to do. That's why I don't know why people don't want to have like an NSYNC Google presence. So I'm saying, like, yo, who's this dude? What is he doing? Because I think Mia was doing Third Eye even at some stage. It was a whole thing. It was like there was a cult of y'all. There was this big spirit of collaboration, because it's like, wait, she has a dope fit pic. Wait, how does she have the dope fit pic? Then you cross and you're like, oh, that's the same homie who was with Bambata. And you're like, oh, okay, it's cross-pollinating. So within all of this, how do you maintain the spirit of collaboration? Because personal experiences, you collaborate with people and then, lines get weird. Either you blur the line or there's a miscommunication, or a clear communication also doesn't exist?
You're right, bro. You're right. I think the reason why it was easier to collaborate for me back then was because everyone wanted a piece of the pie, right? Everyone wanted a piece of the action. So it was easy to say to someone, hey, are you free today at this time? Can we shoot, or can we do this? Can we do that? You know, it's easy for me to get people on board with an idea because everyone wanted a piece of the action. Everyone wanted to be on Instagram doing 1, 2, and 3. So it was easier in that sense. And I think it's a lot harder now. And I think that's also part of the reason why I haven't been able to sort of collaborate with a lot of people, because people are doing their own things and people are attached to their projects and their ideas. So they feel like sharing it with someone is not going to do it justice, right? So I get that right now. But for me back then, it was easier because everyone was around me and we were all in school. We were all hungry. So it was just like, dude, we have the time. Let's make it happen right now. It was easy as that. Right now it's harder because someone is well established in their field. So it's harder getting them to be a part of your project, right? So yeah, I think that's the only thing I can say about that.
Okay, cool. This weird thing, right? It happens. It happens in the sneaker world, the fashion world, photography world. The need to grow. Because right now you're explaining how all these characters in your life, everyone has blossomed into what they're trying to be. Some are working at it, some have hit the ceiling, some are about to hit the ceiling. With all these characters, when did you realize that you have to start creating a sense of sacrifice per se, with like, need to up my equipment, I need to up my models, I need to up my concepts? What's that thing, that switch? Because a lot of people, because your circle is aligning with you, you think that's enough.
Yeah.
But you never grow beyond your bedroom. So what was that switch for you?
The switch for me was when I started doing the same thing over and over again. When I revisited the same locations, worked with the same people, which is not a bad thing, working with the same people, right? But working with the same people at the same standard and at the same level is what basically switched the light bulb for me. It's like, okay, cool, I need to do something different. I need to aspire to do things a certain way, and also maybe up the level or the quality a bit more, you know? So that was a thing for me that sort of made me want more. And also a lot of it came from also seeing people around. Social media has this weird thing of putting unnecessary pressure on people, right? Like you, even though we don't want to admit to it, even though we're not trying to do it deliberately, we end up comparing ourselves to other people, right? So as a creator, you end up saying, damn, this person got a campaign from whichever brand. So maybe if I do 1, 2, and 3, then I'm going to be able to do the same thing and get maybe a brand deal as well. So that's another thing that also added to that. But the main thing was that I was doing the same thing over and over again. And I was like, nah, man, something needs to change. Yeah.
So we at school, right? You're talking about, it's the Visco era.
Yeah.
You at that era where everyone is getting the Mr. Price deal. The Mr. Price deal was the Network Area 3 back there.
Yeah, we were, it's crazy thing. I'm sorry to cut you, but we were actually meant to do something with Mr. Price. It was myself, Jones, and I think a label as well. Or it was just myself and Jones, I'm not sure. But we got called and we were meant to do something, but it never materialized. And which was unfortunate, but it's all good.
You thought it was done. We made it now. The gap is done.
Nah, it's happening, but it didn't happen the way we thought it would. But yeah, I couldn't continue with your.
Don't feed into the system. You won't sustain camouflaging. Understand that it's not about the resources. It's always about the self-discipline and surrounding yourself with individuals on a similar path. The energy you feed off from those around you will open you up to a world that would have taken you years on your own. It's quicker to grow as a tribe because you can pull from each other. And remember, this is the last time everyone you know is willing to create at their best form for free.
you go to school, you understand design. I'm also from high school doing art and design. You carry that.
Yeah.
But in the same way, that's like one of the most crippling things you could ever carry in your life.
Yes.
Because there's a certain standard, there's a certain thing that institutions create, right? Whereas there's a barrier to hit. And 90% of the time, if you're consistent, you're going to hit the barrier. So you think you're the best thing in the world, like you're the best thing in that institution. What gives you that thing to say, yo, I'm down in high school, I did design, so I understand the language. I'm down at varsity now. I think I get it. I'm sure I get it, man. Fuck it, my marks say I get it. What's that thing to say, yo, I can finally take on the world and say, yo, Sizwe.
Yeah.
Sizwe is graduating into Size, and then the Size is then going to take over the world. What's that thing where it's like,
yo, dog. Yo, I don't know if there was a specific time or specific thing, but to go back to your question, like when I got to varsity, I was mind blown, bro, because obviously, like you said, like institutions create a bubble around you, right? So, high school, I'm thinking, nah, I know everything, I'm covered. I get to varsity, my mind is blown. I'm learning about all these things that are important, like mood boards, like this and that and that and that. So I was like, yo, dude, I have a lot of learning to do, right? So things eventually kick off a second year for me. It's like, okay, cool. Now it's about time that I own what I say I want to do, right? So if I'm going to be like a content creator or a writer or a photographer, then I need to own that space. So I end up doing all this research, buying all these magazines, doing each and every single thing I need to do, like learning as much as I possibly can about what I want to get into, like photography or whatever it is. So I do that, and then end of second year, I'm like, you know what, let me take this thing on and make sure that I own it. So that was a time for me that, that made it real, that made it possible. You know, I don't think there's a specific event or a specific project or whatever. It's just that time frame within the end of second year towards. So I did second year in 2 parts because of whatever. Yeah. So that was that, bro. That was that time frame. I think it was 2017 going to 2018. That was like, okay, cool. Defining moment. I need to do this. I need to make sure that I'm doing it right. I have this, I have that, and I'm also, it's also dope that you're learning from homies like, you know, Jones, Lebo. They are the guys that obviously knew more than I did. So I was always keen on asking them like, yo, dude, how do you do this? Or they were always keen on sharing information with me like, nah, dude. I remember Jones actually telling me like, dude, you need to buy a domain. I was like, what? And he's like, no, buy a domain so you can have your own so you can have your own email address with your own name and stop using a Gmail account. I was like, that's dope. So I did that, and it was only $19, and it changed my life. It changed everything for me. So learning those kind of things was very defining for me.
And all we talk about, like, there's all these characters coming into play because you have your Jones, you have your label, you have your models of choices, your software of choices, your school of choice, the way you articulate yourself, right? What's been the main objective to say, I'm the kid, when we grow up, right? Like, there was an era where bubblegum was a reachable Natal. You know?
Sure. It definitely was.
There was that era where it's like, if I make it on bubblegum, the editor of Natal is going to smell.
I can
I can retire. Yeah. Jamal knows my name.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What's the thing, the objective that keeps you going? Because you went from creating the content to somewhat curating and still driving the narrative forward as an editor-in-chief at Sikipan. What's that objective that keeps you there?
So the objective for me is documenting culture, basically. Like, I think a lot of the stuff that I struggled with, especially like growing up, not as a child, but as a young adult in varsity looking for research to have to do assignments or whatever, is that there was no reference point for South African culture, right? There was no there was no book, or there was no website, there was no creator or like anything that can say this was the time frame between 2016 and 2019 in South African youth culture. There wasn't that, right? So my thing was, okay, cool, like we are too reliant on Western media to document all these things for us. Like if it's not, I don't want to name drop, but if it's not all those publications in Berlin Berlin, Japan, and New York, the popular magazines, if they're not talking about South Africa, then no one else is going to talk about it, right? So like things like that were a driving force. And also it was high time for me to show people how I see the world. Perspective is a big part of communication. It's a big part of how we learn things as human beings, right? So if I don't want to see your perspective, then I'm going to stay with my maybe distorted perspective of what South Africa is. So if people are not willing to share their views on things and views on South African youth culture, South African art, South African fashion, and all these things, then it's just going to be up to the Western guys to say what South Africa is about, and it shouldn't be like that. So that is the main driving force for each and every single thing that I do. It's that it sounds cliche and it's been said maybe a billion times, but it's about owning our own narrative, basically. It's about owning my own narrative as a person, because obviously I have my own influences. I've seen things a certain way in life, and it's high time that I show people what I saw. That's as simple as that.
So you studying fashion, you exit fashion, then you create a fashion film. You get nominated at You're doing great. You're on the trajectory to say, yo, this guy's a narrative, he has a look, he has a feel, he has a team. It's going. You have the momentum. You literally right here. Like, and it's steaming. What's that thing that says, nah, fall back?
A lot of things. Number one, life. Like you realizing that it's not just about you. Number two, like I said, people are growing. When you started the conversation, I said people are growing, so it's harder to collaborate as well. And if you're like me and you basically positioned yourself as a collaborator, then it makes your work difficult. It makes everything difficult for you. So that happened, and then school as well, and finances, and this and that. Like equipment, and all those things. So you don't have the tools to do what you need to do. So that's the reason why, like, I know. Let me just relax just a bit and then see where I can go from here.
Do you feel like your work with brand, does that enhance your career? Because we having this ongoing conversation, right? So I have this weird circle of people I interact with, and the conversation has been ongoing that the reason your generation was more impactful, there was more of a push, is because there was no brand stifling what you could be. You were not associated with the brand. You did work with the brand, but you did not become the ambassador
of the brand
at the cost of your creativity.
Sure.
So what do you think the role was for you working with brands, various brands?
I think how we saw working with brands was a push, right? It wasn't necessarily a way of life. It was just a push in your career so that you can do your things independently. I feel like a lot of creators had their own goals. Like a lot of people wanted to do their things independently without a brand. So how people saw it, or at least for me, how I saw brand collaborations was that, okay, cool, this is a way for me to get myself out there. This is a way for me to establish myself as this person. And then once I've established myself, then I can remove myself from that brand and do something else that I want to do, not necessarily for that specific brand. And I think now it's changed because obviously the world has changed as well, and we're living in a world that is sort of, I don't want to say dictated by brands, but brand names hold more weight than they did 5 or 10 years ago. So it makes sense that people are now becoming brand ambassadors, also because brands are becoming, I guess, jealous, and they are becoming possessive of the people that they work with, because they also feel like there aren't enough people doing, I guess, quote unquote dope stuff, So that's that. It's. I don't think it's anyone's fault. Like it's not. It's no one's fault. To be honest, it's if anything, it's the people that are up there. It's their fault for pushing people to that direction and to doing things like that, because if that didn't exist, then people would be just doing their own thing and they would be just creating for themselves and people around them. But now brands have now made it a must for people to create around this specific thing. Like if you look at influencers on online, right? And now the influencer laws or whatever, people are forced to endorse the brand. It's not something organic anymore. And before, I feel like it was a bit more organic and it was also more laid back in many ways. But to answer your question, man, it's no one's fault, bro. If anyone is doing whatever that they're doing with the brand, and like that's that.
Okay.
Be a scholar by all means. Be a scholar of all things around you. But don't let those things mold you. In fact, use them to be the guide for what you wish to be. Have a clear objective creatively. Find a reference point and outdo that shit. Lastly, working with brand is for CV purposes, but don't allow your brand association to be all you're known for. Always find partnerships. That way you will always work on projects that align with your objectives.
Martin had a dream. What's Sizwe's dream for the creative industry in South Africa?
Creative dream for me is, I don't want to sound pretentious and preachy, right? But I think less ego, man. I think there was someone that said, I saw this on the internet somewhere. It said, creation is a place where there is no ego, right? Like where you are void of having a big ego is where you can create the best thing ever. So that's one thing that I feel is needed in South African creative culture, and more specifically Jaws, because this is where I live. This is where I've always lived, and I'm yet to collaborate with people in other provinces or whatever. But specifically in Jaws, there's a lot of there's a need for clicks and a need for I don't know, man, just like a club of some sort, right? Which is cool, which is fine, but it also limits people from seeing other things and from collaborating with people that they could possibly create magic with. Because I don't hang out in a specific place, then I am not automatically cool enough to collaborate with you. And this sounds very stupid, but this is something that people believe in. It's a reality, and people believe this, because Sizwe Mbiza, he can't collaborate with whoever.
Dr. Martin,
yeah, I want to know feet. So that's another thing. And also another thing that I want for the South African creative industry is for dictatorship to stop from brands. Brands are acting like big dictators, like Adolf Hitler and all those things, and like we can't be working like that, because unfortunately for our country, the economy doesn't allow us to be dictated or to be ruled by brands in the way that they're ruling us. we have to fight for invoices, we have to fight for this, we have to fight for voice, we have to fight for all these things that make it very hard for the South African creative to live. And I was actually talking to someone the other day that it's so hard to have a creative career, like it's so hard because you are now chasing people for money or brands for this. Like we saw what happened with Khomotso Neto and Andy Lebuka and all the guys. And that is something that is not isolated. It happens every single day to people. I've been in that situation with a brand. And I was threatened with not working with the brand ever again. And it's like, why are you threatening me? Because you guys owe me and you guys didn't pay me, so I sent lawyers to you guys. So if anything, you guys,
now they're blacklisting you for your own money.
Now they want to blacklist me. And also another thing that I want to stop is that stop threatening people. This is not your father's industry. You can't say like things like that, like you're going to get blackballed. Like, what do you mean? So many things are held back by ego in our industry, and I just want that to stop, to be honest, because it's so hard to reach out to people on Instagram or whatever for collaboration, because there's a barrier or there's a level that you need to get to in order to interact with that person, and sometimes it's not like that, but it's something that I've seen and observed and I have experienced myself. So I'm talking for myself now. I'm not talking for the entire industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt it. I'm like, yeah. I'm feeling you in every segment, every thought, especially the ego part, right? Because it's limiting our graduation. And this thought that always comes to mind, right? That the thing that's limiting our creative culture is the mere fact that 90% of the people who are being knighted are still at war.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it, bro. That's a great way to put it.
We're still at war, but also English is a big barrier because let me tell you why. When I grew up, a goat may be Mbiza, and you never want to be Mbiza. This is from playing soccer. And a lot of these goats, Mbiza, they're not goats.
Yeah, they're not goats anymore.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing because the energy, I've always felt like a goat is more of a mentor. It's someone who leaves the door open for the next generation.
Sure.
So with every season, the first season we did of Morning Brew was like just audio, and this one is like the visual one aspect. So with this one, literally the tagline is bridging the gap. So I'm trying to bridge the gap to say we can speak to you as someone who's an editor, right? And we can speak to you on a human level. And I feel like we've lost that human touch because now everyone is a brand.
Yes, 100%. And I mean, people are allowed to be brands, dude. Let's not get that wrong. People are allowed to do whatever that they want. You see, like it's people are allowed to do whatever that they want to do. It's just sometimes ego is blinding. That's all I'm going to say, man.
To sum up,
ego is blinding.
To sum up who you are as a person, not as your occupation, what would you say?
Sum up who I am as a person. Damn. First of all, I'm a Taurus, so that means I'm grounded, right? And I think, I don't know what I think, but I feel like I am okay. To give you an idea of my personality, I'm grounded. I speak when I'm spoken to. And also, I think it's to a fault, I want to be politically correct, which is wrong. But I think that everyone is allowed to think what they want to think, except things like racism. You can't think about racism or whatever. But like, that's that's me, man. I'm grounded. I just want things to work out, and I think that's also what makes it easy for me to collaborate with people, because I can understand people on a human level, you know, and I think that's also why I'm very passionate about the ego thing, is because I see it getting in the way of a lot of things, a lot of great things. So yeah,
I'm gonna send
I don't
you
know
a
if
show.
I give you
It's a show that it's the most insane show. It's the David Cho show. I'm gonna send it to you on text also, so you remember.
Dope.
You need to watch that. It's like, also anyone's gonna be watching this, you need to watch the David Cho show. It's the next level of, you accept who you are in order to become you. Because most of the time we caught up in the profession and not the human. So that's why I always feel like I felt like it was an important question to ask, because it's like we are so caught up in the things we are manifesting and the things we're working on and improving that we forget that this is a whole vessel carrying us.
Yeah.
And we don't take
For sure.
So with that,
that makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna check that out. That show, David Chu, right?
Yeah, I'll send it to you on text. Shout out, appreciate this.
Thank you so much, Doug. Thank you so much. This was dope, man. I love it.
Thank you, bro. Have a great day.
Can't wait to see I will, Doug.
Yeah, probably like a month. So yeah.
Dope. I will, bro.